And finally, the Bethlehem lambs beat the Galilee goats 3-2. Now, we have an update on yesterday's breaking news story. Any luck tracking down that missing body, Esther? Sadly, not yet, Chelsea, but we have managed to find out more details about the events of the night that Jesus was arrested. It's been reported that Jesus and his 12 friends rented the Upper Room, a local family-run restaurant, to celebrate the Passover together. I'm joined by their waitress, B. McGuinness. B, I understand you were on shift on Thursday evening. Yeah, that's right. I drew the short straw and had to work over the holiday. 3rd year in a row I've missed out on the celebrations. And I'm not going to lie, I wasn't looking forward to working. I had a booking for 13 blokes in the party room. I mean, it's normally pretty grim in there afterwards, especially when they order wine. But apparently this Jesus fella can make his own vintage. Anyway, it was a pretty quiet evening in the end. Not that I was listening at the door or anything, but it didn't sound much like a party. It was all very sombre. Jesus did this thing where he gave his friends bread and said it was his body, and wine and said it was his blood, and whenever they eat and drink to remember him. What was the point of that? To be honest, I think it was his way of saying goodbye. I mean, he seemed to know what was coming somehow, that he was going to go away and that this would be the last supper with his friends. And then what happened? Well, when I was bringing in the after-dinner mince, Jesus said that someone sat at the table was going to betray him, like one of his own friends. And then one of them, I think his name was Judas or something, shifty-looking fellow, well, he got up and left. I mean, fancy knowing one of your friends is going to stab you in the back and not stopping them. I mean, if it were me, I'd have tied him up and put him in a cupboard. But Jesus didn't stop him. Felt like he knew what was going to happen. Anyway, then they all left. I overheard them say they were going to go to the garden. Gardener, name and profession, in charge of Gethsemane. Voted most glamorous public garden for the 4th year in a row by AD magazine. Now, I don't usually go to the garden at night, but I heard that there was going to be a frost. I needed to cover my magnolias. Well, that's when I saw Jesus and a couple of his friends. They weren't making any trouble. Jesus was a little way off. He looked pretty stressed out, to be honest, and his friends were just taking a nap. It was a quiet night. And then the garden was full of people, Roman soldiers, a whole horde of them. And they were there to arrest Jesus. How did they know which one was him? Well, a man came up and kissed Jesus on the cheek. Seemed to know him. And then the soldiers tried to arrest Jesus. I mean, I say tried. Jesus was going peacefully. But then one of his friends, who had finally woken up, grabbed a soldier's sword and cut off a guy's ear. Blood everywhere, all over my roses. Carnage broke out. Everyone was shouting and fighting and trampling all over my flower beds. And Jesus, well, he put out his hand on the man's head, where his ear had been, and then I couldn't really believe my eyes. It was just reattached. There was no more blood. He healed someone who was trying to arrest him. Yeah. Well, why? What was the point? Oh, I don't know. If it were me and they were trying to arrest me, I'd have used a distraction to hightail it out of there, but he didn't. That's the sort of person he is, so I hear. Very compassionate, always going the extra mile for people. Seems on this occasion like he gave himself up willingly. Not a very glamorous evening, though. I hope this whole saga doesn't affect my standing in next year's competition. Competition. That's what we don't like. We are supposed to be the ones guiding the people, not some carpenter from Galilee. Galilee. Who does he think he is? We had worked for years to create peace between us and the Romans. They left us alone if we towed the party line, and this Jesus looked like he wanted to try and smash the party line and everything else that we had spent years building. So it was you who had Jesus arrested? Oh yes, it was simple enough. His own friend was willing to sell him out. If he really was God, he should have seen that one coming.